In this episode of Our Longevity Futures, I was delighted to speak to Professor Vijay Yadav. Vijay is an Associate Professor of Genetics and Development at Columbia University in the US. He is also the principal author of a recent paper that has caused quite a bit of a stir in the longevity community recently, Taurine Deficiency as a Driver of Aging. So in today's episode, Viday gives us a fascinating account of what taurine is, his work surrounding it, as well as venturing into what he thinks may be the future of personalised medicine. I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me again, Professor. And I just wanted to first understand a bit of your background into why you got into this area, looking at longevity and the biology of aging.
So I'm a molecular physiologist by training. My PhD training was in trying to understand how human menstrual cycles are regulated during fertile and non-fertile cycles. And during that time, it became very apparent to me for the 5-6 years of my PhD time that you have to use right model systems to address questions in biology. And that is true for most of the areas that we investigate today. So human menstrual cyclicity can only be studied properly in higher primates or in humans because no other species on the planet undergoes menstruation except monkeys, higher monkeys, and humans. And so we were using monkeys as a model systems, cows as a model systems, and rodents, like mice and rats, as a model system to understand how evolutionary divergence shapes the physiology in a different manner. And during the course of these studies, I became interested in diseases which are caused by menopause because I was investigating ovarian physiology. And loss of ovarian functions leads to menopause in humans. And that led me to investigate different physiologies or different changes that happen with age-related diseases. And that is why I have been in the aging field now for quite some time. And that's where I'm here as a molecular physiologist looking at aging biology from different angles, hormonal and molecular both.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's something that we could do multiple other podcasts about for sure. But I mean, the reason why we're talking today was mainly around your paper that was released fairly recently, within the last couple of months, titled Taurine Deficiency as a Driver of Aging. So I'd like just to delve into that a bit. And I think the best place to start is obviously just to tell us about what taurine is and what its usual role within the body is.
So we became interested in taurine way back in 2011-12 time, almost 12 years ago now, when we were investigating how aging leads to changes in molecular composition of organisms. And we were doing a metabolomic screen in humans to understand what are the molecular changes happening in the blood, in small molecules and in hormones that happen with age. And in this screen, one of the most dramatically downregulated molecule was taurine. At that point, I had very little idea about taurine. I had heard about the name, but I didn't know much about it. And that is where we started investigating taurine. So taurine is not a new molecule. It was identified way back in 1827 in ox bile. And because it was ox bile, that is where the name taurine comes from. Taurus is the word for ox. So taurine in our bodies, it is produced within liver cells and some other cell types, but primarily liver. And it also can be obtained in animal-based diet. And it is deficient in pure vegetarian diets. So plants cannot produce taurine to the largest part. Some algae do have, but that's about it. So taurine can be produced within the body, and it can also be obtained in the diet. However, during the different phases of life, we have changes in taurine metabolism differently. Embryos have 5 to 10-fold higher tissue levels of taurine compared to an adult human being. And when a baby is born, it cannot produce taurine. And that is why human baby formula has been supplemented with taurine for quite some time now. Now, our interest in our field in general became interested in taurine in 1950s. In 1950s, and this was a very interesting story. In 1950s, people became rich. They wanted some kind of a pet diet to be given to their pets. And this introduction of pet foods in pellet forms led to precipitation of variety of diseases in pets. They had cardiovascular abnormalities. They were not growing very well. But one of the most striking aspect of this introduction of pet foods in the society for pets was that many cats, hundreds in numbers, started going blind, and they were not growing very well. So these were rich households, and now they suddenly have a pet, a cat, which is blind and hitting walls and dropping vase at home. So it was a very distressful sight for them to see. So they hired many scientists, and society in general became interested in the investment in science research to find out what is causing the blindness in the cats. So these investigations took around 20-25 years, and scientists figured it out ultimately. And in 1975, there was a seminal paper published in Science that showed that retinal degeneration or blindness in cats is caused by a deficiency of a single molecule in their diet. And that molecule was taurine. 15 years later, another paper was published in Science in 1987-88 time, and that showed that cardiac abnormalities or cardiac failures in cats is also caused by taurine deficiency in their diet. These two studies, among several others at that time, during that time, made people interested in taurine and what does it do. And since then, taurine has been shown to be associated with variety of health parameters, such as, for example, it is associated with muscle function, it is associated with brain functions, it is associated with liver functions. However, when we were starting the studies on taurine, it was not known whether taurine affects the aging process and why its levels were down in old age humans. And that led us to do many experiments in mice, in worms, in yeast, and other species to see how taurine is affecting the aging process. The first experiment we did was to perform a rodent intervention in mice from middle age when taurine levels are low to see whether taurine intervention by one's daily supplementation of taurine for life it affects the aging process. These taurine supplemented mice lived longer. Females lived approximately 12% longer and males about 10%. Now, one of the most important aspect of any anti-aging intervention is to see whether mice are not only living longer, are they living healthier? Because you don't want to be living longer and being unhealthy. So then we performed another set of experiments where we investigated health of mice across organ spectrum upon 1 year of one's daily taurine supplementation. And these studies showed that no matter what organ system we looked at brain functions, anxiety was lower, memory was higher, bone strength was increased by taurine supplementation, muscle strength was increased, neuromuscular coordination was increased, glucose tolerance and insulin tolerance became better. And among many other functions we tested. So these studies showed us that taurine supplementation not only increases lifespan, it also increases health span of mice. But mouse is just one model organism. So we became interested, okay, how far in the evolutionary spectrum does the effect go? And we tested the effect in worms and in yeast. In worms, taurine supplementation increased lifespan by 10% to 23%, 25% at higher doses. And also it increased the health of worms. But in yeast, we did not see any significant effect on, does not matter what conditions we tested in. Now, these studies told us that for multicellular organisms such as worms, C. elegans as a model system, and mice, you have a effect of taurine during the aging process, which is a driver of aging because taurine intervention leads to higher lifespan and higher health span. Now, to get closer to humans, we then performed a monkey intervention study because clinical trials take decades sometimes. So we performed a monkey intervention study where we supplemented monkeys once daily with taurine and then measured after 6 months the variety of their health parameters. And these taurine supplemented monkeys had lower obesity, higher bone density. They also had better liver function. They had a better glycemic index. Their inflammation markers were reduced upon taurine supplementation, and their oxidative stress in the blood of different oxidative damage markers were lowered. So these studies from yeast to monkeys showed that taurine supplementation increases lifespan and health span in worms and worms and mice, and health span in monkeys. So this is where we are, and we these data suggest that taurine deficiency is a driver of aging from multicellular organisms to mammalian species.
So what you're saying is this the protection that taurines
are evolutionarily conserved, and at the same time, these are model organisms. So one has to look at, when you're looking at aging process in multiple different species, to see how does the effect hold in different species. It does not. Of course, the ultimate aim is to do a human intervention and to look at lifespan of human being, but so far I will be dead by the time I finish the human interventions.
So if we rewind it back a little bit, so we talked first about the impact of taurine deficiency in felines. So they had a number of different health outcomes because of this deficiency. I mean, do you see this in other species as well? So it's not just about lifespan, but you mentioned about cardiomyopathy and different consequences of a lack of taurine in felines. Is it evident in mice, in monkeys, in humans?
Yeah, so I will go to humans. Let us go to humans. Okay,
yeah,
that is what we want to study on.
Absolutely.
So in humans, you have mutations that cause taurine deficiency, such as the taurine transporter. Lack of taurine transporter leads to poor eyesight, because taurine gets deficient in eyes, in the retina, and it leads to poor eyesight in humans, in humans with the mutation. So that is one. And then you also have cardiovascular abnormalities upon taurine deficiency. You have variety of mitochondrial diseases which are caused by the taurine deficiency in the cells. And also you have different other functions which are compromised upon taurine deficiency, such as glucose tolerance for that matter. And we did perform a large association analysis in humans, in aged humans, 60-year-old humans. What we did is we had a cohort of Epic Norfolk cohort, which had like 12,000 people in it. And longitudinal health data was available for them. So we performed the association analysis of taurine levels in these people with the health parameters. So what these studies showed us is that taurine, low taurine levels in humans is associated with more obesity, more BMI, more hypertension, more type 2 diabetes incidence, more liver damage, and among other poor health parameters. So these studies do tell you that low taurine levels in humans are associated with a variety of diseases. And in conversely, there was an inverse association. That also means people who had higher taurine levels had low obesity, low diabetes, low hypertension, meaning better eyesight and things like that.
So to sort of understand why those are consequences of taurine deficiency, maybe you could just give a brief description of how, in a healthy person with healthy amounts of taurine is being utilized in the body?
So taurine metabolism changes with age,
Mm.
and different phases of life have a different requirement of taurine. Early on, we think that taurine is involved in the growth of an organism. And as the organism becomes adult, you have taurine levels that are present in muscle function, involved in muscle function, improving liver function, maintaining better bone health, better brain health, better eyesight, better skin phenotypes. And so there are variety of different organ systems are dependent on the presence of taurine. In fact, taurine is one of the most highly abundant free amino acid in human body. It is around 0.1% of the body mass.
Sorry to interrupt. So as we age, is it our ability to synthesize taurine organically within our bodies which is degraded, or is it the taurine that we're supplementing through our diet that's decreasing?
So at the present time, I think it is both.
Mm-hmm.
So taurine production also changes with age, as well as the dietary intake of taurine changes with age. How much taurine is being able to absorb from the gastrointestinal tract changes with age. And also with age, there is a resistance of taurine in the cells. And as I said, different diets have evolved differently for human beings. Vegetarian diets, pure vegetarian diets, lack taurine. Non-vegetarian diets have to an extent, but not entirely sufficient. So human diet, meaning we have socialized ourselves. And this, I would say, the invention of agriculture, domestication, humans have domesticated themselves. Not only we domesticated ourselves, we also domesticated other species like cats and dogs. And cat phenotype is a very good example that we don't know what is the ideal nutrition, right? Almost 70 years ago, we did not know what was the ideal nutrition for a cat. Even 30 years ago, we did not know what was the ideal nutrition for a cat. What does it mean for us? Meaning we came out of Africa a long time ago, right? And our diets have evolved depending on the environment the humans moved into. If they moved into a colder climate, they had more meat-based diet because they could not do agriculture to that extent. They moved to tropical climate. They developed more agriculture-based diets, as grains and other products. So the dietary evolution has also shaped the human genetics differently. So at the present time, we do not know as human beings what is an ideal nutrition for different genetic makeup of individuals. And that is where precision nutrition comes in picture. And I personally think that we have barely the idea of the ideal nutrition that we should be having in order for us to have a best lifespan. 100 years ago, we were living 40 years. With the invention of vaccines and the implementation of vaccine governmental policies, now we are living longer. We are 70, 80 years now. And I think, in my view, if we continue our better understanding of the process of aging, I think time is not far that we'll be living 120, 140 years in the next 50 years.
Yeah, I completely agree on those points. And, you know, the more I find looking into the science of nutrition and supplementation, it's the science and the evidence out there is so ambiguous sometimes and so complicated and so misleading, and it can really be a minefield to get through. And that's why studies such as yours, which, you know, like you said, you started looking at this 12 years ago, and the scientific rigor that you can tell that you've put into your study is really refreshing, because on so many different levels, dietary nutritional science is really a minefield of different opinions and biases and stuff. So it was just a really refreshing paper to read through when we did go through that. So I commend you on that. But yeah, I would love to hear your opinions of it's sort of taking a bit of a tangent, but I love taking these tangents about very specific nutritional information for people going forward in the future. So you say personalized nutrition. Is this where you think science is leading with the sort of evolution of big data and multiomics? We now have more information than ever to look at people on a very personal level. Do you want to just speculate on what the next 10-20 years holds in this sort of area?
So my personal opinion is that we barely understand the nutritional requirement of human beings. We have started, almost just about 120 years earlier, we started looking at nutrition in a very different fashion. And many diseases were present in that point. Let's say, go back to 1900, okay? We had many diseases that were just lacking particular nutrition molecule in the diet. For example, let me give you one of the best example that I have ever come across is Addison's anemia, is a pernicious anemia. So pernicious because people die by the anemia. So till about 1920, we had no idea why people were dying after pernicious anemia, what was causing that disease. And then suddenly there was this guy, a remarkable experiment in dogs actually. So what he did is he bled dogs, he made them anemic, and he gave them different diet. Because you asked the question about nutrition, I'm giving this example. So he bled dogs, he gave them different diets, vegetable-based diets, animal-based diets, and other different components of animals even. What he discovered in dogs is that when you feed dogs with liver, raw liver, you cure their anemia. Based on that experiment, two clinicians, one in Canada and one in the US, decided to feed humans with raw liver who have pernicious anemia. When they fed raw liver to pernicious anemia patients, remarkable thing happened. These guys, they were bedridden, they were not able to move, they had neurological symptoms. Suddenly they were able to walk. In a couple of months, they were able to walk, and in 6 months down the line, they were running. So this told us that some kind of nutritional intervention was happening at least in anemia. They were lacking something which liver was giving. And we had no idea in 1925, 26, what was present in the liver. These three guys, Whipple, Minot, and Murphy, got Nobel Prize in 1934 for feeding humans and curing pernicious anemia by giving them raw liver. Well, at that point, it was kind of a slightly controversial decision by Nobel Prize committee. But it was the right decision. They cured anemia. They cured pernicious anemia, which was killing people. In the 20 years, then Dorothy Hodgkin, you might have, Oxford structural biologist, she then got a small powder from Merck of this purified molecule from the liver. And then she did the structural validation and found out this is vitamin B12. So now, for almost 50 years, pernicious anemia patients were fed raw liver without knowing what was present in liver. Now, this brought into picture that different nutritional requirement of people, right? They lacked vitamin B12 in their diets, and they were developing pernicious anemia. They were dying from it. Slowly, the field has evolved. Now we know better the nutritional requirement of vegetarians versus non-vegetarians. It is not that animal-based diets are completely healthy either. They have their own problems. I think people with the red meats have been shown in epidemiological studies to even lead to a variety of health problems. So now, nutritionists now supplement, for example, B12 for vegetarians. So these studies tell you that we are still evolving as far as the nutritional requirement of different ethnicities are concerned, different genetic makeups are concerned. And we now understand requirement of, for example, B12. Look at taurine, which is animal-based diet it comes from. Look at carnosine. And so these are different nutritional requirement which pure vegetarian-based diets need supplement as a supplement. Now, what are the requirement of the people with the who have animal-based diet completely? There must be other molecules coming from plant-based nutritional sources that are shaping their physiology as well, and perhaps they're predisposing them to different nutritional groups are predisposed to different set of conditions. So these examples tell us that we still are far away from understanding the nutritional requirement of human beings. And that is where the precision nutrition is coming in picture. And I think we are evolving towards better understanding of these nutritional requirements. And with the, I think, human genome sequencing and these multi-omics pipelines coming in picture, we are able to create a better molecular um, fingerprint of different molecular actions. Maybe sometimes they may mislead us because of the vast amount of information, but sometimes they give us clues of how system is working. In fact, we identified taurine deficiency way back in 2013 time, when if you have vitamin B12 deficiency in animal models, we showed that they have taurine deficiency as well. So there are nutritional interplay happening in the body, and we need to better understand how different nutritional changes can make us more healthier and live a better life.
So do you think this problem that you've described into, not knowing how specific nutritional practices play out on different, say, ethnicities, what do you think that's a symptom of? Is it a lack of diversity in previous cohorts when we're looking at nutritional data, and how do we solve that going forward?
So I think it is one has to look at different populations in order to come up with a better understanding, because different populations have different predisposition to different diseases because of their different genetic makeup. And therefore, I think in my personal opinion, looking at larger data sets across different populations, especially when it comes to nutrition, now we have a better understanding with the large data set being publicly available, and people are looking into it, doing meta-analysis across different populations and coming up with a more refined understanding of nutritional requirements. Not only nutritional requirement, more refined understanding of genetic makeup of individuals. And that is where we are heading into, and we hopefully will have more clearer answers in 5 to 10 years down the line, when everything is publicly open and we are able to do things that we can rely on in long term.
Yeah, bringing it back to taurine. Is this something that you've looked at with taurine in particular? How the deficiency maps across different ethnicities, and is there a group of people that are more prone to taurine deficiency, or is it fairly standard across different ethnicities and populations?
There have been many studies that have been done in different disease conditions, not other way around. For example, people who have Alzheimer's disease, they have low taurine levels. Long COVID patients have low taurine levels. You have diabetic patients under certain circumstances, they have low taurine levels. People who have kidney disease, in fact, they have high taurine levels because kidneys cannot excrete taurine. Now taurine goes up in the blood. So different conditions lead to different changes in taurine metabolism. And in humans, it is known. In fact, many interventions have been done looking at obesity upon taurine intervention. In diabetes, it has been done. In cardiovascular abnormalities, it has been done. In eye diseases, it has been done. In anxiety, it has been done. In menopause, it has been done. So there are many clinical intervention studies that have been done and that have shown taurine has beneficial effect when it comes to obesity, when it comes to diabetes, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to muscle health, when it comes to liver health, when it comes to menopause-induced changes in oxidative stress. So these evidences tell us that it is a time for us to do a large human intervention trial on taurine across different populations to find out how taurine intervention changes physiology in aged humans and what are the organ systems whose health is improved across different ethnicities, and how does it differ, in fact, across different ethnicities, the effect of taurine.
So yeah, I mean, that segues very well onto my next question, which is what is next? Because obviously you've done a number of different trials, including mice, including rhesus monkeys, and then you also, if I understand rightly, with the association study, looked at the actual effect of taurine deficiency in human populations. What is the next step in making sure that that is not just a correlation, it's causation?
Absolutely, a very important question, I think, in my view, and that we have in mind. For last 1.5 years almost now, we have been coming up with a set of investigators across different countries to do a multinational randomized placebo-controlled trial in humans and to investigate the effect of taurine intervention in middle to late aged humans for organ functions. And that is still coming up. We have now clinical partners in many countries now who have agreed, and we are coming up with a more refined study protocol to do the intervention, hopefully by the end of this year to early next year.
Brilliant. Well, it's really exciting to hear that coming together. And as someone who is maybe listening to this or has read some of the recent media articles around this study, what would you say to them in terms of, because there has been a lot of, I guess, this area is prone to hype, is prone to all of the headlines, taurine supplementation, you'll live forever, blah blah blah. We see so many of those headlines. What would you say to someone who looks at all of this, all of the media that's surrounding this, as a way to sort of mitigate expectations, or just to educate them further than maybe the headlines do in what they say?
Yes, so all these studies that we performed in different species tell us that taurine supplementation improves health. And in a couple of species, we showed that it increases lifespan as well. However, so far, we have not done a intervention trial in humans, in aged humans, to see how taurine intervention would lead to a health or changes in health of a human being. And that needs to be done before any self-supplementation could be recommended. So I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we'll have this information. And then we can perhaps suggest to people at large to do taurine supplementation, or if they have some conditions, not to do so either. Right? We need to understand, as I said, for example, we have a kind of reverse causation in kidney diseases when kidney disease patients have a higher taurine levels in the blood because they cannot excrete it out. So we need to understand these changes in physiology across different populations in order for us to recommend taurine supplementation to public at large.
So, I mean, having looked at the evidence, it's obvious that there is, there's strong evidence that there is there is something there. So as someone watching this and thinking, right, I'm going to start supplementing taurine into my diet, what would you recommend the best way to do this is? Is this through changing different aspects of your diet, including different foods, or is it finding taurine supplements on the internet and taking them, or is it drinking more energy drinks? Because we all know that those are quite a classic sort of holder of this molecule.
Well, it is a very difficult question to answer, in my opinion, because any answer I give you is going to affect a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's going to influence a lot of people. And the most important thing here is that let us finish the human intervention trial. We cannot go ahead and supplement taurine present on the shelf in the supermarket, because we don't know how pure they are. Are they contaminated? Because nutrition supplements are not regulated. It is very important to have these considerations. Secondly, we do not recommend at the present time any taurine self-supplementation. And till we finish the clinical trial, I would suggest that we eat healthy and exercise. In fact, we showed in our study that a bout of exercise leads to increased taurine levels in the blood of human beings. So there are many evidences. We eat healthy, we exercise, and that is the best I can suggest at the moment with the data that I have in front of me. Hopefully in 3 to 4 years, we'll come back and they'll say, okay, these are the conditions in which it works best, and these are the conditions it doesn't work, for that matter. So we have to wait to let us do our job.
Yeah, I think those are very, very wise words. And just to bounce back, because I know we've sort of gone on different tangents during this interview. I just wanted to delve quickly into why you think at a molecular level taurine is having this impact. Do we know, because you mentioned in your study that it impacts many, if not all, of the different biomarkers, the hallmarks of aging, which I'm sure many people listening to this will be familiar with. If not, go and Google the hallmarks of aging. Fascinating science there. But how at a molecular cellular level, how is taurine actually impacting those? And I know it's very, you could go into so much detail on this. So yeah, maybe just a brief overview.
Sure. So with aging, cells have variety of changes in their phenotypes. There are broadly classified as a hallmarks of aging. There are 9 of them. Now there are a little bit more. And they include, for example, DNA damage, telomere attrition, mitochondrial dysfunction, reduced autophagy, increased number of senescent cells in tissues. And these compromised aging hallmarks lead to a variety of health problems at a cellular level, then at the organ level, and then at the organism level. So what we see is that taurine supplementation affects different aging features, and often differentially in different tissues. So not all the aging hallmarks are responding similarly in different tissues. So we see that taurine suppresses senescence in some tissues. It increases mitochondrial health in some tissues. It increases autophagy. It affects the nutrient sensing in the cells. It also affects the telomere attrition induced consequences on health in one model organism we saw. So in other words, taurine is affecting variety of different features of cells and differentially in different organ systems to improve the health of the organism and ultimately lifespan of the organism.
Brilliant. Well, I implore everyone to go and read the original paper. Like I said earlier, it's titled Taurine Deficiency as a Driver of Aging. Really, really fascinating paper. So thank you so much, Vijay, for joining me today. It's really been a pleasure to chat to you. And I know it would be great to have you on again, maybe when you've delved a bit deeper into this new trial that you're going to run. And actually, could you give us any information about where we could keep up to date if anyone wanted to keep up to date with any progress in that? Would it be on the university website, or any links to that would be great.
I am on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, and I can put these two profiles in chat box, and then you can post it. And any update that we have, we continuously post it from my lab. Somebody from my lab generally does post it. Or I go on LinkedIn and then I will post it myself. So yes, we keep updating these. Of course, these are the studies that take long time. And they're still shaping up, and hopefully we will have soon some idea about how we will proceed further.
Brilliant, perfect. Yeah, I'll grab them from you, and I'll leave them down in the link below, just so people can grab them then. But you are a fantastic storyteller and a great scientist, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you too. Thank you so much.
Well, it is a pleasure to be on your call, and well, I hope to see you again sometime in near future.